How we doing, everybody? UFC Thoughts here, and today I'm going to be talking about some upcoming fights that are kind of flying under the radar a little bit, two of which kind of not, but I think that they're going to be a little bit overshadowed by the rest of the events going on around them that I'm really excited for. So this is probably going to be a video where you see a lot of faces that maybe you don't know a lot about them unless you're like a hardcore like me. I'm the hardcoreiest motherfucker on this fucking platform, dude. Monetize my whole shit in 20 seconds. Doesn't matter. Yeah, so I'm geeked for, engage in, or discuss technical or computer related tasks obsessively or with great attention to detail. This is not going to be about computer related tasks or anything. This is going to be about the UFC. Alright, so I got one per division. There's a lot of events that are coming up. Not a lot of them are like fully made, but there's, a lot of fights per division. So, but I chose one per division just to make it a bit of a shorter video. Flyweight, getting straight into it, has a fight at the end of the month, August 23rd to be exact, UFC Shanghai, Walker versus Zhang, or Mingyong. I don't know what's going to be on the post. I think it's Zhang. But Charles Johnson and Lowkey Kavanaugh are fighting on this card, and I am extremely excited for this fight. There's a couple other flyweight fights that are maybe flying a bit more under the radar. Kai Asakura, Tim Elliott, for example, is on a really stacked pay-per-view card, UFC 319. It's probably seen as the weakest fight on the main card, which I get it, to be fair, I get it. But Lowkey Kavanaugh, Charles Johnson is a great fight. Lowkey Kavanaugh, 2-0 in the UFC. He won on the Contender Series as well. He got a brutal KO on the Contender Series against Antoine Ho, I think is his name. He's fighting on the Contender Series again this year, I think. And 2-0 in the UFC, Felipe Dos Santos beat him in Macau. Or no, not Macau. Was it Macau? He made his debut against Jose Ochoa in Macau, and that performance is aging pretty well considering how Jose Ochoa has been able to do against, Asul Mabayev and Cody Durden. And then he also beat Felipe Dos Santos in London, I believe is when that fight took place. Charles Johnson is just a all-around scrapper. If he's not getting absolutely wrestle-fucked for the first 2 rounds of a fight, it's usually going to be very fun because his output really is high. You look at a fight like Joshua Van that him and Charles Johnson were having, it was super cool. And Charles Johnson is the last guy to ever beat Joshua Van. He knocked him out in the 3rd round. And in my opinion, I thought it was 1-1 going into that 3rd round. Charles Johnson knocked him the fuck out. Lowkey Kavanaugh, extremely young prospect to look out for at flyweight. I believe he's 24, 25. And Charles Johnson just has some of the most experience in the flyweight division, even though he's only been in the UFC for about 4 years, I think is how long because he made his debut against Muhammad Mokaev. But he's got like 11 or 12 fights already in the UFC. So, Charles Johnson, shit ton of experience, very active. This is his first fight back since March. Lowkey Kavanaugh, I think on the feet it'll be interesting to see how Charles Johnson deals with the speed of Lowkey Kavanaugh and how Lowkey Kavanaugh deals with the reach of Charles Johnson. And maybe the grappling will be interesting as well because Lowkey Kavanaugh has shown that he's got some decent wrestling chops as well. I think it'll be an all-around decent scrap. I think it'll be a 3-level fight. It'll be a 3-level fight, stand-up, clinch, grapple. I think it'll be a lot. It'll be fun everywhere it goes because I think that Lowkey Kavanaugh can do a lot of damage, and I think Charles Johnson has underrated power at flyweight. So maybe we'll see an undefeated fighter lose, or we'll see an undefeated fighter rise. Lowkey Kavanaugh, if he wins, probably gets a ranked shot, and Charles Johnson should arguably be ranked, but that's besides the point. We move to bantamweight. Bantamweight, another fight on that Shanghai card, if I'm remembering correctly. Zhao Long versus Su Young Yu. Zhao Long, underrated. Su Young Yu, underrated. Both very underrated fighters in the bantamweight division. Zhao Long coming off a brutal knockout win over Kwang Li in Macau. Prior to that, he had a razor-close fight with Chang Ho Lee. If you don't know, Chang Ho Lee is a monster. He showed that in the Cortavius Romeus fight. He's a beast of a grappler, and Zhao Long almost beat him. Zhao Long, decent grappling, power on the feet, hits really hard, kind of just like a scrappy dog kind of guy. Su Young Yu one of the most technical grapplers when it comes to bantamweight prospects, in my opinion. Got really slick jiu-jitsu, really good wrestling, underrated offense on the feet. He's got decent jabs, decent boxing fundamentals, in my opinion. Something that he used very well against like AJ Cunningham to get to the takedown. Something that he used very well against Barry Gang Jeliesu, I think is his name. So yeah, I think they are both pretty underrated. I think it'll be a decent scrap. I think if Su Young-Yu is able to take down Zhao Long, maybe not, but I think Zhao Long is going to be able to defend some of the takedowns from Su Young-Yu and maybe keep it to a stand-up fight, and we'll see a bit more of a stand-up affair for the early rounds, or the early minutes, rather. Early rounds being like round 1 and 2, but it's a 3-round fight. But I think the early goings will be very interesting between these two, because Zhao Long is really goes for it, very scrappy kind of guy. Su Young-Yu, more of a methodical approach to everything. But Zhao Long might force him into a fight that he doesn't like. Let's move to featherweight. Perth is coming up September 27th, I believe, is when that card takes place. And on that card is Doo Ho Choi versus Daniel Santos. Certified fucking banger of a fight. Doo Ho Choi, of course, Korean Superboy. Daniel Santos, Wily Cat. Had a really solid fight against Jung Young Lee. Doo Ho Choi coming off the demolition job that was Nate Landwehr back in December of last year. I think this is going to be a really fun scrap. Doo Ho Choi has been on a run. He's won, is it 3 fights in a row now? I think it is. He beat fucking Bill Algeo, I think. I think it was Bill Algeo that he shattered his orbital and then fucked up Nate Landwehr. I think there's another fight in there, though. I think there is. Maybe not. Maybe I'm tripping. But, yeah. Really, really, really fun fighter in Doo Ho Choi. Really scrappy on the feet. Not scrappy. Very technical, but he can get into a dogfight. You look at a fight like Cub Swanson. You look at a fight like Charles Jourdain. You know what I mean? He can get scrappy in moments. And Daniel Santos, when he is striking, you look at a fight like him versus John Castaneda, it is unequivocal violence. There is so much shit going on where he's hurt, but he's hurting the other person. I think it'll be really interesting if they're not grappling in this fight. And even then, I think that their grappling is both superb. Doo Ho Choi's got really good judo throws. He's got really good Brazilian jiu-jitsu on top of people. And Daniel Santos, I'm pretty sure, is a shoot-the-box guy. That looks like that is a shoot-the-box tattoo. It is backwards because, the UFC website's stupid, but shoot the box, obviously, probably beat JJ black belt. He's decent everywhere. I think it'll be a really fun scrap. I think Doo Ho Choi's got the power to maybe put away Daniel Santos, but Daniel Santos has really good recovery time, man. You look at the fight, like John Castaneda, I don't know how he didn't finish Daniel Santos. It doesn't make any sense how he doesn't win that fight in the first round. I think it'll be fun. It'll be fun. In front of a crowd as well. Come on, what are we doing? Let's move to lightweight. This is probably the second most, not underrated fight on this card. I don't think this fight's going to be really underrated, but I just wanted to talk about it. Benoit Saint-Denis versus Mauricio Ruffi. It could get overshined, though, by the fact that it's, because that week's going to be wild. That 2-week span is going to be crazy. Because it's going to go this fight, then Bohalio against Imavov, and then John Silva is fighting Diego Lopez. So I think Mauricio Ruffi is probably, he's going to be a little outshined by the fights happening around him, that maybe people forget that this fight is going to, be as good as it is. I'm really excited for BSD versus Ruffi. I think it's going to be an insane scrap. Because Ruffi, we haven't technically seen how he is off his back in UFC terms. You know what I mean? Jan Top didn't get him down, even though he did fight Islam Makhachev's teammate in Magomed Aliyev. That he's like a kickboxer. He's not really a grappler. If you watch that fight, it was basically just him striking with him. Not just him. It was just basically a stand-up fight for the most part until Magomed Aliyev got sort of tired and tried to take him down and then got reversed. But Ruffi's got decent takedown defense from what we've seen. But BSD is a different... Benoit really reminds me of Delidze in a way. And I'll explain this when I get to my picks and breakdown for this week's event, which is the last Apex event for a while, by the way. Benoit isn't really good, like, on the feet. He's got really good grappling, though. But his offense, he is just a marauder at the end of the day. He's not really good. I think we can all agree Benoit Saint-Denis is probably one of the most... He's probably the second, like, the bottom 4 people in the rankings at lightweight. Maybe bottom 3, and he's not 3, or probably not even 2 in that scenario. He might be the worst ranked fighter at lightweight. But he's very fun to watch. He's very fun. Rufy on the feet will have an insane advantage over Benoit. Benoit is so slow with everything, but he's very powerful. And we have seen Rufy get knocked out on the regional scene. Grappling-wise, I think it's a really interesting matchup to look at when Benoit, his pressure, we saw what happened where Rufy got pressured by Yontop, where it was kind of a bit too much, but Yontop's a massive fucking guy for the division, and he's a blockhead. He also missed weight by 20 pounds, technically. Well, technically not. He missed weight by... It was a catch weight at 165, and he missed that weight by 168, so he missed by like 13 pounds of the lightweight limit. Which is nuts, by the way. That's fucking crazy. Rufy, powerful on the feet. We all know that this fight's going to be a banger. I just thought I'd want to talk about it a little bit more in depth. The grappling will be interesting. Mauricio Rufy seems like he's got good takedown defense, especially when you factor in that he's a fighting nerd, and most of those guys pretty good when it comes to takedown defense. John Silva, Carlos Prates showed it against Ian Gary, and Kyle Bahalio's probably more of a grappler than all of them. But on the feet, of course, Rufy should have the advantage, but Benoit's just walking forward like an idiot. I think it'll be a certified finish. We move to welterweight. UFC Paris has got another one with them when it comes to the welterweight division. Sam Patterson versus Trey Waters. This is going to be a sick fight. Both really tall, lanky dudes for the welterweight division. Sam Patterson lost his debut to Yanal Ashmouz, which isn't really aging all the best, to be honest, but since Sam Patterson has moved up to welterweight, he has made a mockery of the division, honestly, beating the shit out of Kiefer Crosby, submitting him, beating Johan Lines, submitting him, beating, he just beat Danny Barlow. Knocked out Danny Barlow, who was probably one of the most sought-out prospects in that division. Maybe dipped a little bit after the Nikolay Veretennikov performance, but still, he was very highly looked at. Trey Waters is 6'5" at welterweight, which is always disgusting. But Trey Waters is a very entertaining fighter, has really high output for a tall, lankier dude, hits decently hard. You look at a fight like him and Billy Ray Goff on that St. Louis card last year, it was a fucking banger. It was so fun to watch. It was sloppy, but fun to watch. The grappling will be interesting. Trey Waters' only loss is a submission on the Contender Series. I forgot who submitted him. I will be honest with you. Who submitted Trey Waters? I forget, but he got submitted with an arm triangle. I do know that. And Sam Patterson, he's a really good grappler. Striking is improving. I can't wait to watch this fight. I think it'll be really sick. I'm doing Dana White's job by hyping up some, not very known fights. I think if you don't know, now you know. Middleweight. Middleweight actually had a lot of fights to pick from. I chose Ikram Aliskerov, Jung Young Park. There was a couple others. Ibus Magomedov, Joe Pyfer for 320 is also another really cool fight. And Michel Pereira was supposed to be fighting Marco Tulio. That was going to be a badass fight. Marco pulled out, so now he's fighting Kyle Dawkins. That's still somewhat cool, I guess. Ikram Aliskerov, I think this fight's really interesting when you look at it under a deeper lens. We've never seen Ikram Aliskerov in the UFC, at least, go past the first round. He has been a first-round finisher or being finished in the first round his entire UFC career. Phil Hawes, knockout, first round. Warley Alves, knockout, first round. Robert Whittaker, knockout, first round. Who did he just fight? Andre Muniz, knockout, first round. You know what I mean? It's all very first round based. Jung Young Park can take a beating. He can take a punch. He can recover really well, and he's a really good grappler. And even though Ikram Aliskerov, from what we know, I think he stuffed every takedown that Khamzat Chimaev had for him on the regional scene, but then he got chinned with an uppercut. We haven't seen him really grapple all that much in the UFC yet. I don't know if he's shot a takedown on the UFC yet? Who did Ikram beat on the Contender Series? I know that he beat somebody on the Contender Series. I think he knocked that dude out. Oh, no, he subbed him. I think he subbed that dude in the first round, though. I think this fight will be really interesting, though, seeing if Jung Young Park can actually outlast Ikram a little bit and how Ikram does in the second or third round. If we do see that, I think Jung Young Park is a guy that can bring Ikram to that part of the game. And I think this will set up both guys pretty well. Jung Young Park coming off the win over Ismail Nardiev, and Ikram coming off the Andre Muniz performance, getting back in the win column. Ikram was supposed to be fighting Bruno Ferreira. That would have been a sick fight. Ikram Alaskarov is honestly very entertaining. So I think it'll be a fun fight. I think the grappling will be interesting if Jung Young Park gets to implement it a little bit. And I think the striking will be a little bit interesting as well, because Jung Young Park is decently underrated on the feet when he's not fighting a super power puncher type guy, even though Ikram does hit hard like Gregory Rodriguez, chins Jung Young Park. But Jung Young Park is still able to implement his will a little bit in that fight to the day. So I think the Iron Turtle and Ikram will go to war a little bit. Maybe not. Maybe Ikram chins him in one. But I think that it is going to be a finish. It'll be fun for as long as it lasts. Light heavyweight and heavyweight are both pretty minuscule divisions at this point. There's still some decent shit going on. Light heavyweight, Carlos Ulberg, Dominic Reyes just got announced. This Perth card has 4 light heavyweight fights on it as we speak. 4 of the 9 fights right now are light heavyweight bouts. This one, the most interesting out of all of them, though. Not really underrated, of course. I don't think this is going to be an underrated fight. I think it'll be a little bit under the radar in the month of September when you have fights like BSD Rufi, Bohalio Imavov, John Silva versus Diego Lopez, and then this is the other main event that they have. It'll be a little bit under the radar, a little bit. People will be like, UFC Noche, UFC Paris, and then Perth will roll around after a week off, and people will be like, oh shit, yeah, Carlos Ulberg and Dominic Reyes are fighting. I find this fight really interesting. I see some people, I think Bedtime MMA is picking Dominic Reyes as of right now. He's very confident that he will knock out Carlos Ulberg. I think this fight has the ability to be very fun because I think Dominic Reyes' style will almost force Ulberg to throw more than just an outside low kick and a counter left hook. I think that we will see more out of Ulberg in this fight because Dominic Reyes will force it out of him. And I think that it could have the possibility of going 5 rounds. I think we're going to see a bit of a scrap here just based off Dominic Reyes forcing it out of Carlos Ulberg a little bit. Dominic Reyes is a sniper. He doesn't just rush things. He's very, he methodically plods in a little bit. And if you try and do anything, it'll be a counter striker versus a counter striker in a way. But Dominic Reyes is better moving forward in a way. And Dominic isn't that bad defensively like a Menafield. He's not old and washed like a Jan Blachowicz or a Volkan Oezdemir even for that matter. And I think this is actually a very exciting fight when you think about it. If Dominic Reyes wins this, we're going to see Dominic Reyes fight for a title. If he, literally. This is the guy that fights for the title after Yuri Khalil fight. After that fight, that guy's immediately getting a title shot, right? After UFC 320 at least. Because they're also basing that off of, I think the guy after this will wait after that. They're both not most insanely active guys, especially Ulberg in a sense. But I think Ulberg and Dominic Reyes will scrap a little bit. I think Carlos Ulberg can knock out Dominic Reyes. I think Dominic Reyes can knock out Carlos Ulberg. We've seen both guys get chinned before. Carlos by Kennedy Nzechukwu. Dominic Reyes by, for a time, everybody. Blachowicz, Yuri, fucking Ryan Spann. I think it's a very on the edge of your seat kind of fight because anything can happen. Especially when you have counter strikers like this, where Carlos Ulberg, even though he hasn't knocked out the Oezdemirs and the Blahoviches, prior to that, he was chinning everybody. You know what I mean? He was literally knocking out, besides Dawoon Jung, which he subbed in the last second, he was knocking out the Nicolay. I'm not going to say his last name, because the last time I said his last name, a guy said that I said the N-word. Nicolay, cue the Dan Hooker clip. Ihor Potieria, Alonzo Menafield. He was chinning everybody for a moment. So it'll be like, shit, what's going to happen? If someone moves in too quickly, fucking Carlos Ulberg will end up on the floor, Dominic Reyes will end up on the floor. And also, I think this will just solidify a number one contender after Yuri or Khalil get their title shot, respectively, after their win. So, we will see. I lean towards Ulberg in this fight, by the way. Heavyweight, maybe one fight that I somewhat care about. Tybura Delija's happening, but I think that fight's probably going to be a bit boring. Jonata Diniz, Mario Pinto in Rio de Janeiro. I think this fight's going to be a pretty fun scrap. Jonata actually had a really fun fight against Alvin Hines last time out. I thought that fight was actually pretty good on the International Fight Week card. Mario Pinto debuted against Austin Lane, got a huge knockout win, flatlined him. I think it'll be interesting. Both scrappers, Jonata, he's fat. Mario, well, not fat. They're just like kind of skinny fat. Both power in the hands. Jonata, really good kickboxer. Mario, undefeated, young-ass fighter. He's like 25 years old. Jonata, he's like 34, I think. He's kind of older. But they're both scrappers. They throw a bit more. This isn't a grappler match either, so Jonata's not going to just get wrestle-fucked. He's actually going to be able to utilize his kickboxing, which is pretty entertaining to watch. And Mario Pinto got dropped by Austin Lane, but knocked him the fuck out. Jonata Diniz did the same thing. Honestly, he lost the first round and then got a knockout in the second, so we'll see what happens. These are the fights that I'm looking forward to. Some of them more underrated than others. Of course, the Dominic Reyes-Ulberg fight is a main event, so it's not really that underrated, but what are some underrated fights that you're looking out for? What are some fights that you are excited to see in every division? This weekend we have UFC Vegas 109, Delidze Hernandez. Don't know why I blanked on Fluffy's name. But yeah, I'll get those picks and breakdowns for you guys tomorrow or Thursday. If you liked the video, give it a like. If you want to see more content like this, subscribe. Leave a comment down below. What would you guys like to see next? I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.